Good to see you.
Good to. I love it. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, Cliff.
Yes.
How come you don't want to talk about me? It's kind of sad, don't you think, that I get thrown out because I'm wearing the Make Canada Great hat again?
Are you leaving?
I have to. They won't let me in with my hat, and they said I got to take it off. So you go screw yourselves.
But you can wear his shirt that says support him, and you can wear a fuck Trudeau flag. You can do all that, but you can't wear that hat.
Get this! I got a picture in my phone of me and Pierre Poilievre with me wearing my blackface Trudeau sweater and this hat, and standing beside each other having a great old time at the Agri-Comet the last time he was here, and everything was just fucking hanky dorky. But this time they don't want to let me in because they're getting all woke. And you know what? That's not why I came here today. I came here to try to get our country back, not for them buying into this woke bullshit.
Well, I respect it.
So I am the hell out of
here.
here.
You're going to take your hat off and join us regardless?
Nope.
No?
Not a chance.
But tell me you're not going to vote Liberal now.
I'd rather fight than change.
Don't tell me you're going to vote Liberal, though.
You know what? Everybody in Alberta should vote for Carney, and that way them will just separate. How about that? Huh?
I think that's the plan if Carney does win. All right. Have a nice night. Okay.
People, that's real life. And look, I'll show you since someone has already said shit, and it's earlier than 5 minutes in the show, I'll tell you the shit that I've been taking on the internet for not being a Pierre Poilievre critic, but for being honest and straightforward and calling a spade and calling it like it is. You go to a Pierre Poilievre rally with a hat that says "Make Canada Great Again," and the campaign or private security or whomever says you got to take off that hat in order to attend the rally. Holy hell. You don't need me to tell you that that's not a good move. When you have people who are the most diehard conservative supporters leaving the rally because they have been told to comply if they want to enter, you don't need me to tell you that that's bad politicking. And yet somehow, when I tell you that that's bad politicking, and that is Pierre Poilievre perhaps taking the Aaron O'Toole losing strategy, it's not rocket science, people, but the type of rubbish that I have to deal with on the internet for telling you not what you don't want to hear because it's wrong, but because you don't want to hear it because it's true. Old stock Canadian. I don't know how old he is or what stock Canadian he is, but he says, Viva, I have been a longtime fan of yours, but you know what? You don't live here anymore, so fuck you for posting this bullshit. And I'm thinking, you're right, I don't live there anymore. My family still lives there. I'm still a Canadian citizen. I don't know where I'm going to be in 2, 3, 4 years. I have as much of a right to comment on what I see going down as anybody else. Oh, F you for posting this bullshit to suggest somehow that maybe it was wrong or incorrect information. And by the way, the only reason I even knew about this is because there was a tweet from the CEO of Rumble that said, "Is this real?" And I see the video and I say, okay, could be taken out of context. There could have been more before or after. It could have been a Liberal plant. It could still be a Liberal plant who went there with a Make Canada Great hat again and was told to leave. Liberal plant or not, if you told the person to leave, therein lies the problem. Some people say, Viva, it wasn't Pierre telling them to leave. It was the campaign. That's a distinction without a difference. We're talking about conservatives, capital C conservatives, freedom of speech conservatives, saying that you can't enter if you have a Canadian Make Canada Great hat on. That's not conservatism. And then I call it out and I say, this isn't right for a conservative rally, and I get called the names. And then you have, by the way, that was straight from Pierre's, from the plebs. Is someone at the door? We're busy. This was straight from the plebs live stream. And when Chris Pavlovsky tweets out, "Is this real?" I had to go find the source, make sure it's real. It was real. And I'm sure it was mildly uncomfortable for Pleb as well, who is there. Yeah, no, I'm busy. Sorry. I'm also on the road, and apparently I'm not talking loud enough for people to know that I'm live streaming. I had to make sure that it was real. It was real. It's terrible. And it's not just that it's real and terrible. It seems to be policy for the campaign. And then people are going to say, well, Viva, you're not in Canada anymore. You've been Americanized by American politics. Nobody wants to see Trump-esque imagery at Pierre's rally. Some people are going to say, Viva, it's a venue. issue. They can enact whatever rules they want. They want to control the messaging. They want to make sure that when there's big panned audiences and Pierre speaking to a crowd, invigorating them, that they don't want to see Trump-esque stuff. Okay, I agree. It's a decision that seems to be being made, and it's a terrible, wrong decision. In case you had any doubts about how wrong it is, you got the CTV, state-funded propaganda, covering it. I don't even know if they're covering it in a favorable light or not. Canadian MAGA hats, knives, and e-cigarettes among items confiscated from Poilievre rallies. The knives, I understand, people. Violence, I mean, that's a no-brainer. The e-cigarettes, I can sort of understand. I'm not sure. Well, you don't want any fires, safety hazards. If you can't take them on a plane, fine. Maybe there's a safety issue. You don't want people ingesting cannabinoids via the vapes. Make America Great hat again. Make America Great Again hats. Okay, it's American politics. It's Trump-esque politics. They don't want to see it there. It's a maple MAGA hat that you see among the confiscated items here. Maple MAGA. So they say, Maple MAGA, no longer welcome at the rallies, or if you want to come in, you have to self-censor in order to come in. Why not just give them a uniform? Just, give them uniforms in order to attend a Pierre Poilievre rally. How would that fly? Some people were saying, well, at the very least, give them a different hat. Give them a Pierre hat. But you have to understand what is going on here. And it's the Aaron O'Toole losing politics of placating an enemy that can never be placated. Pierre Poilievre, in his interview with Jordan Peterson, and I'm sorry to bring it up again, but I need to, because it's very, very important to understand exactly what Pierre Poilievre said during his interview with Jordan Peterson and what he's doing now in real time. I'm going to let this play. Give it a sec.
How do you feel about the probability that if the Conservatives in Canada take power, that they'll be enticed into this global utopian delusion that seems to have enveloped so many leaders, kind of regardless of their political stripe? What do you think, if anything, can inoculate you or has inoculated you against that?
I know better.
Well, elaborate. What do you mean?
I'm not going to do that. And it will be hard because the temptation will be, this is the mistake that conservative parties around the world have made countless times. They think, well, anybody who's got a conservative mindset is already voting for me, so I can go off and chase the ideas of my political opponents, and then everyone will love me because I'll have the conservatives due to the fact that I have the name conservative, and then I'll have all these other people because I've embraced their contrary direction. And in the short term, it works because you manage to have all of these people under, and all of the different political ideologies captured in one tent. But the problem happens when the policies are a disaster. And then people wake up and go, oh my God, my taxes are now up. The inflation is out of control.
We'll stop it there because it doesn't matter, what he says afterwards. That was in the event that you pretend or try to adopt the policies of your enemy in government. Understand what he just said. I won't do that. I know better. I'm not going to try to placate an enemy and try to be loved by everybody and take for granted the conservative support. And yet that kind of seems to be exactly what he is doing in this campaign. So far, I don't think you need me to tell you it's not looking like it's working. We're going to get into the markets and whether or not they're able to be manipulated. I don't think it's working all that well when you have some of the most diehard conservatives complaining about being kicked out of events as influencers or being told to take their hat off if they want to attend, from the party of free speech, from the party of no woke anymore. The markets, it doesn't seem to be working. I still believe, my goodness, I have also invested in the markets accordingly, that Pierre should be the next Prime Minister of Canada, but he's doing himself no favors. I do believe that Pierre is going to destroy Mark Carney in the next debate, as far as I understand, everybody, Carney is participating in the French language debate of the official elections race, not the TVA one. So I don't think that Mark Carney has bowed out of or backed out of both French debates. He declined one, but it wasn't the official French language debate. But that's going to be fun to watch. I don't think his French is going to be strong enough for meaningful debate. But I do believe that Pierre is going to crush him in the English debate. He's going to crush him because on the substance of it, if they would ever, go on podcasts and express the substance, Pierre is the better candidate. I still believe everything I've ever believed about Pierre. Better doesn't mean the best candidate that Canada could have at this time, because Pierre could be a better version of himself than he's currently being right now, instead of bending over backwards trying to placate people who will never love him. So I think Pierre's going to win. And on the policy side of things, they should. On the corruption side of things, they should. But he's doing himself no favors by acting more woke than the media, by trying to placate the media. I don't want to have them saying I'm Trump-esque. They're saying it anyhow. Embrace a sea of red maple MAGA flags, maple MAGA hats in your crowd. And don't be a different, subtler version of the person you're trying to beat. If we wanted to, what is it called? Milquetoast politicians who are barely discernible, people would act accordingly. That's not what Canada needs right now. That's not what Canada wants. And people thinking this is a good strategy, I disagree, respectfully. That being said, when it comes to the outright abject corruption of Mark Carney, have you heard the latest? That Mark Carney apparently met with some Beijing council and then claimed that he didn't know what it was about. Hold on, I'll bring up the article. Here, this is the article from the Globe and Mail, which Mark Carney, in a beautiful soundbite that I'll be playing for you, talk about someone who wants to sound like Trump, referring to the Globe and Mail as kind of fake news. This is what the Globe and Mail reports. Carney says he had never heard of pro-Beijing group despite photos with its leaders. This, you will recall, comes in the wake of the scandal. I didn't break it, but I certainly talked about it, of the Chinese communist WeChat app ostensibly supporting Mark Carney, creating a narrative and allegedly, according to Canadian officials, promoting a narrative that Mark Carney is the voice of change in Canada. He is the disruptor to the status quo in Canada. A bigger load of shite you could not possibly imagine. Mark Carney is not just the status quo. Mark Carney is the source of the destruction and devastation in Canada. Lest I remind everybody, he's been advising Trudeau as his financial advisor for the last 5 years. This globalist, anti-populist, anti-Brexit, 3-passport carrying, WEF Davos attending, Bilderberg meeting invitee, globalist whore. So he's had a bit of a scandal where just this week, WeChat was ostensibly promoting a false narrative to make Carney look like the disruptor of the status quo. He says, I've never heard of this group with whom I have a photo. I am inclined to be forgiving when all that you have, I'll scroll to the photo just to show you, is a photo like this, which looks like it was taken at an event where someone comes up and shakes your hand like Jeremy McKenzie shaking Pierre Poilievre's hand. And then you say, oh, look at that picture with him. You must have known them. I'm amenable to the argument that it's not a fair judgment. I'm also amenable to getting pissed off when someone has to defend themselves and say, I want nothing to do with that Jeremy McKenzie diagonal right-wing extremist rubbish. Yeah, I take pictures with lots of people. I don't know all of their backgrounds, and I'm not going to do a due diligence every time someone says, can I take a selfie with you? This is what the article says. Liberal leader Mark Carney says he has never heard of a pro-Beijing lobby group in the Toronto area, despite photos on the organization's website showing him with 2 of its senior members. The Globe and Mail reported Thursday that during the Liberal leadership race, Mr. Carney met with the executives of Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada, JCCC, according to its website, which described the former central banker's entry into politics as, quote, an important turning point in the upgrading of China-Canada relations, end quote. Do you know what I'm very skeptical of? That Carney, in all of his globalist wisdom, he knows people. He's connected. He knows banks. He knows banking. He knows finances. He knows the economy. He can lecture Pierre Poilievre on the economy when exposing his own deep-rooted corruption of investing in the very dirty energies that he is supporting by implementing crippling energy policies in Canada. I don't believe that he's never heard of the JCCC. In fact, if you operate in the field, if you are a globalist, in the sense that Carney admits to being a globalist, you have heard of the JCCC. So it's the denial that I've never heard of them. Well, I've heard of them. I took a picture with this guy. Did I know it at the time? Maybe, maybe not. Jiangsu Council says on its site that in an in-depth exchange with 2 of its leaders, Mr. Carney, quote, highly praised the pioneering role of the Chinese business community in emerging fields such as clean technology, digital trade, and financial technology. Do you understand what's going on here, by the way? He might also have never known that that guy in the photo was the president, or what was it? Who's the guy, Jiangxi? He might not know his relation to the JCCC, but do I believe that Mark Carney said these things about China? I do believe that he said these things about China. I mean, we had Justin Trudeau praising the basic dictatorship of the Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese Communist regime, because of its ability to turn an economy around on a dime. So you got to figure, like, what's the truth of this? What's the not truth of this? What's the exaggeration? And where's the benefit of the doubt, even if you don't want to give the benefit of the doubt to people who no longer deserve it? A picture means very little. Even that picture of Mark Carney with Ghislaine Maxwell on its own means very little to nothing. Coupled with the fact that that picture was taken just a few months after they moved to the UK, and Carney starts sending his daughter to the Tavistock institution for whatever therapy. And then a year later, he's at a Prince Andrew party after everyone knew what Prince Andrew knew, what his philanderings were with Epstein. It might mean a little bit more. These people all operate in the same sick circles, and they know what they're up to. But a picture, it's a picture. He denies it. I'm not sure that I believe him. I'm not sure that he didn't know what the JCCC was. But you want to talk about someone adopting the fake news, Trump tactic. Hey, why aren't they calling Mark Carney Trump-esque for calling the Globe and Mail basically fake news? Listen to this when confronted on it. An arrogant, pompous a-hole, which leads me to believe that there's more truth to these accusations than meets the eye. Check this.
Says that this is a tactic China uses to exert influence.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail. So in your question, and I guess in the article in question, you said I had a meeting with whatever your term was, Beijing group.
Oh, whatever your term was? So this is what you call, I'm going to play it again from the beginning. This is what you call protesting too much by way of feigning ignorance. Whatever the group was. She just said it. JCCC, dude. I know it is. The Jiangsu Council of something. I've only heard it because of this article. I know it. Damn right he knows what the JCCC is. And his way of protesting that he doesn't. Whatever you said. The Beijing group. Yeah, I'm so stupid. I'm so ignorant. I never heard of this Beijing group.
Says that this is a tactic China uses to exert influence.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail. So in your question, and I guess in the article in question, you said I had a meeting with whatever your term was, Beijing group. I've never heard of this group. Okay, never heard of this group.
Never heard of it. Never.
Certainly didn't have a set-up meeting with this group. Full stop. So check your sources before you write things like that. Okay, or your colleagues do.
What a snarky little biatch. I never had a, by the way, very important qualifier, a setup meeting. What does a setup meeting mean? Like scheduled in your event calendar?
Meeting with this group. Full stop to this group. Certainly didn't have a setup meeting with this group.
A set-up meeting with this group can mean a lot of things. Much like Bill Clinton, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Well, when I said that woman I was talking about was not Monica Lewinsky. I was talking about Linda Tritt. You didn't know that because in my head, I meant that as in Linda Tritt, not Monica Lewinsky. I couldn't help what you understood. Or I did not have sexual relations with that woman. When I insert a cigar into her vajayjay, that's not sexual relations. That is me just moisturizing a cigar before I choose to smoke it. It's amazing how people can craft the lies to themselves by using these very opaque, ambiguous qualifiers. I didn't have a setup meeting with them. I didn't know who this... Bullcrap. I believe that you did know. And everybody knows that you are beholden to foreign interests, both in investments, both in liabilities. That's more than both. In terms of investments, liabilities, and crippling political resource advice that you've been giving to Canada that benefits one country and one country only, that being China. And it's just a coincidence also that the only three countries that actively retaliated against Trump's tariffs were Mexico, which has a heavy Chinese influence investment in it, Canada, which is China-owned, and China. In fact, I should have done it the other way. The only three countries that opposed, actively retaliated against Trump's tariffs, China, Mexico, where China has massive investments, and Canada, where China has massive investments. Now, all of this is being reported, by the way, by Sam Cooper, who's on it like white on rice. I didn't intend that pun, but that's actually kind of funny. And it's not the rest of it. Here, I just want to highlight this one. Did Mark Carney ever meet with Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada? In the same way, did Mark Carney never meet with the Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada the same way he was no longer with Brookfield Assets Management when they moved their operations out of Canada to New York? Elbows up, Carney. Oh yeah, I never heard of the pro-Beijing group. Yeah, I've never heard of them. I never had any set-up meeting with them. You remember what he said about Brookfield Asset Management's decision to leave Canada and go to New York because it's probably better for business, better for taxes, and Canada be damned. He said he wasn't involved in that decision, that he had already left Brookfield Assets Management. Lies, or I shouldn't say lies, I should not presume intentions. Factually incorrect, as a matter of fact, incorrect. He was with Brookfield Assets Management. Maybe he forgot he penned the letter recommending to shareholders to approve the move. He was there. He was in there, and he approved it in that he ratified it. He recommended to shareholders to approve it. Maybe he forgot. I won't call him a liar. I'm thinking that he's a liar, but I won't call him one because I don't know whether or not he truly forgot his role as chair of Brookfield Assets Management when the decision was made and when he pushed the decision to the shareholders. But the corruption with Carney doesn't end there. And we want to go back to the markets, which I've been saying, the markets are reflecting a not functioning campaign by Pierre Poilievre. And there's a lot of people out there saying markets can be manipulated, and much like polls can be manipulated. Now, for those who don't know, markets can be manipulated, especially when there's low volume on trades, but not in the same way that polls are manipulated. Polls, as far as I'm concerned, and until proof to the contrary, and Richard Barris is the only one that I trust. In fact, Richard Barris and anybody Richard Barris says I should trust are the only ones I trust. Polls are not just propaganda. They are manipulated, dishonest, disingenuous propaganda because you can get the exact results you want by tweaking what you include and what you exclude. In terms of, well, that one really doesn't qualify as a legitimate whatever opinion, we'll disqualify it. Oh, that doesn't really fit within the category of what we want to pull, so we're just going to eliminate it. Much in the same way you can curate the results of an election by disqualifying candidates who might be too competitive. Disqualify Ruby Dalla, and then when you have Chrystia Freeland, Karina Gould, that guy whose name nobody remembers, I'm being mean, Bayless or Bailiff, whatever that guy's name was, Bayless, and Mark Carney, you have your election. You've curated the candidates, so the outcome of the election is equally curated. That's what dishonest polling is about. When it comes to market manipulation of the polls, it is possible. It might even be cheaper than trying to buy off these politicians if the volume of the trades are sufficiently low that if you slap in $1 million bets on Mark Carney, you can drive up his probabilities to 80, 81%, and then create the fodder for public sentiment, which then in turn manipulates the polls, manipulates the people into thinking, well, crap, if the markets say 80%, he must be a good candidate. And then the question is whether or not this is in fact occurring. I want to bring up the article where Pleb brought it up that, it's possible that there is this level of manipulation going on. Let me see here. Is this it? Oh, yeah, here we go. Sam Cooper tweeted this out. And Sam is more in the weeds of the China infiltration of Canadian governments than possibly anybody out there. Tag him and get him on Joe Rogan. Get him on Joe Rogan before April 28th. This is stuff that would blow Joe Rogan's mind, much like Mike Benz talking about USAID. China's involvement in Canadian politics, China's involvement in the criminal drug trade, which we're going to get into in a second. But this is what Carney posts. Sorry, Mr. Cooper. This is what Sam Cooper posted as relates to the betting markets. For people looking at that betting site with 80% choosing Carney, it would be precisely within the realm of precedent if CCP, Chinese Communist Party crime networks, were skewing that. Check out my report from Taipei, Taiwan's intelligence disclosure scoop in 2023. And the bottom line of all of that, I'll give you all the link. How much do lobbyists spend on lobbying? Hundreds of millions. Imagine you could manipulate a market with $1 million in liquidity just to buy up shares and drive up price, or sell shares and drive down price, because you can buy no to Pierre Poilievre as well. So within the realm of feasibility, it's been done before. It might even be cheaper than running blackmail operations. It might be even cheaper than running lobbyists. It might be even cheaper than gifting people, politicians, things. It might be cheaper than threatening them. threatening, in as much as it might not cost hard money, has more exposure that itself has monetary value. So it's entirely possible Sam Cooper entertains the idea based on prior reporting of what was done in Taipei, which was similar. But when I say that, it's inexcusable that Pierre is running a campaign that I think has so many clear deficiencies, because there are so many clear problems with the Liberals and their decade, not lost decade. That's not strong enough, Pierre. Decade of devastation is what you should be calling it. There's so much free advice. My goodness, people give me shit for giving free advice. Decade of devastation, decade of destruction, decade of degradation, decade of dehumanization. Have 4 different billboards of it with different elements of what represents the last decade of liberal rule. Decade of dehumanization, and go after COVID restrictions, go after jab mandates. Dehumanization, degradation, devastation, and anything else that's a D so you can have the alliteration. Decade of drug overdoses. How about that? Listen to this. Western Standard reporting this. If you thought it was bad, you have no idea. RCMP bust BC fentanyl super labs. Seized chemicals capable of producing 5.5 million doses. The RCMP said there was no evidence the drugs were destined for the United States. Where do you think they're going? No. It's a total lie when Trump says Canada's posing a problem for the U.S. Those drugs weren't destined for the U.S. No, they were destined for the rest of the world. Oh, okay, fine. Trump's right. Trump's wrong then. They're producing more than can kill all of Canada, let alone drugs to service the drug addicts in Canada, which have exponentially increased in numbers as a result of criminal, and I call them criminal liberal drug policies. But no, don't guys, trust the RCMP. We got a big problem. We can't control the drug manufacturing in Canada, but trust us when we say that despite all of our incompetence that has led to this situation, corruption, incompetence, and liberal policy, trust us when we tell you that they weren't destined for the U.S. They were going to go to Australia. They were going to go to the U.K. So Trump is wrong. Bad tariffs. Fight with Trump on the tariffs and don't fix the shit in your own country. The BC RCMP that's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, for those who don't know, the dudes on the horses, has announced the successful bust of 3 drug labs in Lower Mainland, at least 2 of which are suspected of producing fentanyl. It was estimated that the actions taken by law enforcement prevented several million potentially lethal doses. Every dose is a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl from ending up on the streets. At a press conference in Surrey on Thursday, Assistant Commissioner David Taboul explained that the busts, which took place between March 26th, were the culmination of an investigation that began in 2023. Take your time, folks. The labs in question were located in both residential and commercial buildings in Pitt Meadows, Mission, and Aldergrove. Whether the facilities were owned or rented was not revealed. Look at this. Fentanyl precursor chemicals and equipment seized by the RCMP at 3 super labs in the Lower Mainland. Where are they coming from? China. We know it. Why are they in Canada? Because Canada's in bed with China. We know it. Where are the drugs going? More drugs that can kill all of Canada? They're not going to the U.S. Only 1% is caught at the border. Maybe because Canada, the border between Canada and the U.S. is basically an honor system of a border, as Sam Cooper explained in his interview with me, whereas the border with Mexico and Canada is a militarized border. Maybe that might be the reason why. Maybe it's because they're not checking train loads going from Canada to the U.S. Maybe it's because it's going from Canada to Mexico and then across the border to kill 100,000 plus Americans every year. How many? 10,000 Canadians a year. 600 Canadians a month dying from opioid overdoses. 80+% of it is as a result of fentanyl. But yeah, Trump is the big bad boogeyman for imposing tariffs. Corrupt Carney and the Liberal Party has been in bed with Chinese Communist Party criminals, members. They've been bought out. They've been blackmailed through these. Go look up the Markham Casino. And meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre is telling people to take off their maple MAGA hats when they go to a conservative rally. Yeah. And if Mark Carney deserves to lose the election for one thing and one thing only, people, to end on a bit of a laugh, it's this. I don't know who this dipstick is. I'll call him a dipstick. I don't know who this guy is. And maybe that's people are going to say, I'm not. I lived in Canada until I was, how old am I? Until I was 43. with 1 year in Paris, 4 years in Quebec City when I studied law in French, editor-in-chief of the Law Journal. I was the first-year representative of law students there. I became the president of the AED, Association des étudiants en droit. I was immersed in Canada, Quebec, French, and loving and being proud of what it meant to be Canadian and a Quebecois. But I don't know who this jackass is. Listen to this.
Every Canadian election, I approach all the different party leaders and see if they will do an interview and a hip flip.
Okay, I'm going to start again. This guy gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like, if I were to ever think of someone who would be up to no good with, I'll leave it at that. This is the guy that I'm... Who is the guy in the UK, Jimmy Savile? This guy is very Jimmy Savile-esque. But I know nothing, except for the fact that this makes me uncomfortable to listen to as an adult. But I'm going to play it. I'm going to shut my big mouth. Listen to this. And watch the body movements at the end of this video.
Every Canadian election, I approach all the different party leaders and see if they will do an interview and a hip flip.
Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada.
June the 29th, 1982.
I think people remember that their first drummer was Tory Crimes. It's all coming back to me now. Something tells me you're going to win.
And I was wondering, Mr. Carney, would you do the hip flip game with me?
Yeah!
Every Canadian.
What the hell was that? I feel dirty. I feel violated. Like, I feel like my eyes have been violated with the sound, with the visuals, with the words. What in the name of sweet holy hell was that? Who the hell is that guy? Who thought this was a good idea? And my goodness, meme away with the end of that, people. Let me give everybody the link so that you can all go enjoy this. Just two adults rolling their hips together, making grunting noises. Holy crab apples. People, sorry, that was a bit of a long intro rant, but we covered a lot of material. It's early afternoon for me. I am in Vegas getting ready to attend the Eric Hunley meet and greet Robert Barnes birthday bash. Came down yesterday. I told my locals community what day I had yesterday. I took one of my kids with me because, there's no better homeschooling than walking the strip. I don't know how many steps we've done on the strip, but there's no better lesson of life than walking the strip in a good and a bad way. I mean, Vegas is a fake town where everything is big and majestic, and then you knock on it and it's like made out of stucco, like that movie with Jim Carrey. What was it called? The Truman Show. Vegas is an interesting place also where, and it literally happened this morning. There was a homeless person who was clearly unwell and on the sidewalk asking for money while a yellow Lamborghini, drove by in the backdrop, revving its engine. Not on purpose, not in relation to that, but just the contrast between the haves and the have-nots and what happens in a land of debauchery that is literally built on sin. Not in the religious sense, in the Sin City sense. Alcohol, drugs, gambling. We walked around and just we didn't buy anything. We go to these shopping things and I'm like, who the hell needs this? And it's one thing to pay a lot for something that is actually good. Like, I appreciate watches are works of art that appreciate in value. The same will not be said of a freaking purse. The same will not be said. We got a Bubbly water and a Gatorade, and it came to $11. This is a place where part of the opulence is paying ridiculous, stupid amounts of money for things that don't cost that. But that's what people think is a vacation. And the allure of Vegas that I ever liked is a little bit gone. But I like the natural, not the natural, the things. What do they call them? The attractions. We might be going to see Blue Man Group. And I remember that I saw Blue Man Group for the first time in my life when I was 16 years old in New York in 1996. And I don't remember if it was before they franchised. And it was the most mind-blowing experience ever. I remember going, they had the tubes that were going all over the room, and you would talk into a tube and you would listen, and someone, you don't know who you were listening to, but it was crystal clear. The music, everything about it was mind-blowing. So we're going to see if it's as mind-blowing for my child as it was for me. But we're in Vegas, and yesterday was a long day. So good early afternoon, and good afternoon to everybody watching now. Before we go any further, by the way, and speaking of the haves and the have-nots, and in Vegas, everybody's selling something. And we passed these guys their statues, and I don't even know what the shtick was until I realized that you're supposed to tip them in order for them to start dancing. It's just the women wearing those peacock outfits, very skimpy outfits, and then charging for pictures. And you got the people. It's just like, it's an ecosystem of consumerism, capitalism, and debauchery, where you have it's good walking around with a kid. You don't get the same people soliciting you as when you're, me walking alone, and then, okay, whatever. But the other thing is, I tell my kid, all they want to do is start a conversation, and then there's going to be it's a way to work in to get to asking you for money. Hey man, how you doing? You start talking, oh yeah, or and then, but also the fraud. Not to buy anything off the street. Don't buy those tickets. Don't buy those discounted things, because they are fraud, and that segues perfectly and deliberately into the sponsor of today's show, people. Home Title Lock. If you are a homeowner in the US, you need to listen to this. When was the last time you checked your home title? Most people never do it. Don't even think about it. Most people don't realize how easy it is for anybody to pull up someone's home title and do nefarious things with it. The home title is your legal proof you own your house. And if you're like me, the answer is, well, I look it up. I know that it's important. The problem is, in today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles, and your equity is the target. It's like stealing the engine out of a car and replacing it with a crappy engine, and you don't really know that they've done it until you go to either resell your car, or you go to a garage and they say, why do you have a 2-cylinder engine in this beautiful Bronco? I don't even know anything about cars, but basically that's what it is. It's kind of what it's like. How it works: criminals forge your signature on one document, use it as a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee within your county, and boom, your home title has been transferred out of your name. They take out loans using your equity, even sell your property. You won't even know what's happened until you get collection or foreclosure notices, and that's why you need to stop it before it ever happens, and fix it if you're already a victim. Go to Home Title Lock, use promo code VIVA, and make sure your title is still in your name. You'll also get a free title history report and a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. It's 24/7 monitoring your title, urgent alerts of any changes, and if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HometitleLock.com now. Promo code VIVA. HometitleLock.com. Promo code VIVA. And it's a product that I actually do use myself, and it is actually quite useful. So that's it. Let me go see what's going on in the tipped part of this before we get into what I think is the biggest blockbuster of the day. It's funny. I watch it, coming in the afternoon now, I was listening to the podcasters who were coming before. The not influencers, I'm going to take this one out for a second, not influencers, analysts. Everyone's talking about that Joe Rogan interview with Dave Smith and that British guy. Can't imagine what it would feel like to be that British guy and know that the entire world is basically shitting on you right now, but I've listened to it. I don't think it's quite as shocking as some people think it is. And I'm very sensitive to how bad that guy must feel right now. But I'm also sensitive to the fact that, it goes to show you that when you're having a discussion with someone who you might not think is an expert, you cannot rely on status to give legitimacy. And that is probably the biggest fault of what the guy did in that interview. What's his name? I forget his name. Doesn't matter. I'll forget it. But Dave Smith was the other guy. And I like Dave Smith. And even if I disagree with him on certain things, he's a sincere individual as far as I can tell. People are talking about that. People are talking about other stuff. Nobody's talking about what I believe to be the bombshell of a Crossfire hurricane declassification of documentation. Now, I've got to also thank Encryptus for this. Encryptus in the backdrop, we like to call him here Viva's Jamie. Encryptus, he is Agent Guru _IO on Twitter. And he is an AI master who has been using AI to go through, sift through, siphon through this documentation, which is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's uselessly voluminous, and not just voluminous in a way that you can't go Control F and search because the images are saved as unscannable images. So Encryptus sends me breakdowns of all of this information, And Newsweek is reporting on it. I had already seen the Newsweek article, and it's mind-blowing. The only problem is it's mind-blowing for someone who is sufficiently well-versed in the Russiagate Steele dossier scandal, but it doesn't even say anything new as far as I'm concerned. What's up? Okay. I'm here with a kid who's now. This kid's going to learn a lot about politics through osmosis. You can go, dude. Get a go. It's mind-blowing, and I'm sufficiently familiar with with the scandal, and it's not revelatory in the sense that it doesn't actually reveal, as far as I'm concerned, any new information, but it does reveal new information because it's revealing recently and previously hitherto unclassified or undeclassified, so classified documents that show the true extent and scope of the corruption. Nobody's talking about it. We're going to talk about it in a second. Now I wanted to get back to this because Lily America 1 in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community says, Viva, at Basque offered me her ticket for the birthday party tomorrow night. Would you be able to help us with the switch of the name of the door? I don't want to show up without anyone knowing about it. I'm feeling anxious already. I will take care of this. I'm not organizing anything, but I'm going to give this to Hunley, and I don't think it should be a problem. But Lily, I'll message you after this. I'll be able to find your email in the chat through my ability to find. Is it not letting me get this out? There is Bill Brown with a meme that says "tariffed your mom last night." It's a King of the Hill meme of Donald Trump. Roostang in the house says, tomorrow evening, Hunley and Grobel will present the second ever Friend of America's Untold Stories for Robert Barnes at the Italian-American Club restaurant in Las Vegas. Viva, will you videotape the event? I'm going to be there, dude. We'll have some good stuff. King of Biltong says, try our Biltong, almost 50% protein, packed with B12, creatine, iron, zinc, and much more. A perfect snack addition to your weekly meal prep. Biltong USA, code 10. Code Viva for 10% off. King Biltong says, we stream at 5:30 p.m. Eastern directly after Viva, doing some light banter whilst cooking great food live. Join us in the fun at our channel, rumble.com/c/eat at Anton's, no apostrophe. All right, people. Let's start with Operation Crossfire Hurricane as legacy propaganda media is reporting on it. For those of you who didn't know, there was a recent disclosure of a slew of what had hitherto been classified documents relating to Operation Crossfire Hurricane, Russiagate hoax. If you haven't, I'm not even going into summarizing what the Russiagate hoax was. Kevin Kleinsmith, FBI attorney, falsifying evidence to submit to a secret FISA court to obtain a spy warrant on Carter Page that they then used to go spy on Donald Trump. Christopher Steele producing the Steele dossier, which the FBI knew was bunk bullcrap. That Steele dossier was given to the FBI by Michael Sussman in a meeting where Sussman then lied to the FBI and said he was not acting for or on behalf of his client, Hillary Clinton, or the DNC, except he actually billed Hillary Clinton and the DNC for the meeting in which he fed to the FBI the Steele dossier that he knew was bunk so that the FBI could then leak it to the Yahoo News, who would then publish it, and then the FBI would use that publication as a basis to obtain a secret, unlawful FISA spy warrant on the Trump campaign at large. That's it in a nutshell, if you don't know how egregiously sick and corrupt it was. Michael Sussman, who later faced charges for lying to the FBI, was acquitted in that corrupt, urine-soaked hellhole, pee-pee-soaked heckhole of D.C. because they would indict a ham sandwich and convict someone if they wore a red hat and exonerate them if they wore a blue hat. That's the summary, people. This is how Newsweek is reporting it, and you know that it's bad the way Newsweek is reporting it. And I'll tell you how, you'll get to it in a second. When they refuse to tell you how bad it is, and instead they say this is how bad it is according to somebody else who we besmirch, that's when you know how bad it truly is. Donald Trump's Russiagate documents read in full. You can't read them in full because there's hundreds, if not thousands, maybe even more pages. You can't sift through it. It's impossible. But Encryptus, with the help of AI, did, and we're going to break it down and summarize it right now. Hundreds of files documenting the FBI's Russiagate investigation into President Donald Trump's 2016 campaign have been released. The documents from the FBI's Russia probe, known as Crossfire Hurricane, were obtained and published by Just the News and The Federalist after Trump ordered them declassified in late March. We've contacted the White House for, okay, why it matters. Let me just stop here. Take this out and say this. Why does it matter? Because it was a coup. It was a junta to unseat a democratically elected president, to tie his hands for the first 3 years of his presidency, and to undermine democracy. It was, you want to call it nonviolent? I call it violent. That was political violence of the highest order. There's a difference between political violence and physical violence. And political violence can be both physical and not physical. That was political violence of the highest order. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? Because the Democrats, the DNC, Hillary Clinton, the FBI, Mueller, that other guy there afterwards, I forget his name now, Durham, were all in on the coup, the junta, and the cover-up. That's why it matters. Let's see why Newsweek says it matters. Trump and his supporters have long alleged that the FBI's Crossfire hurricane investigation was a, quote, witch hunt, end quote, launched by the president's political opponents. You see how they do it? They're not asserting it as an indisputable matter of fact. They're not even asserting it as a theory. They're asserting it as a theory of the others who they've demonized and besmirched so that you shouldn't take it seriously. The release of these documents could shed new light on the justification. There was none behind the investigation into alleged collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia around the time of the 2016 election. What to know? Crossfire Hurricane was the code name. Okay. On March 25, Trump signed the executive order to declassify materials. Okay. FBI Director Kash Patel later turned over those documents to the House Judiciary, Jim Jordan. Just the News, the Federalist said they obtained the documents. By the way, let me take this out again. You want to keep pooping on Patel because of the Epstein files? Go right ahead. But give the man credit right now. This is a big delivery. It's not the Epstein files, and we should all be holding their feet to the fire for the Epstein files regardless. This is a big deal. This is a big delivery. This is a big, I don't know if it was a promise, but this is a big transparency commitment honored. So give Kash Patel the credit that he deserves for this. More than 700 pages of redacted documents include emails, messages, interviews, and notes on the Steele dossier. A largely, it's not entirely, not totally, not corruptly falsified, it's just largely debunked, suggests there's some parts of it that might still be true. A largely debunked document compiled by former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele that sought to detail allegations of Russia's attempts to interfere in 2016. All bullshit, by the way. All bullshit. Federalist, a conservative online magazine founded in 2013, often referred to the so-called Russiagate as a politically motivated effort to undermine Trump. It was even worse than that. Crossfire Hurricane began after the FBI received a tip that George Papadopoulos, a Trump campaign advisor, had prior knowledge of Russia efforts to release damaging information along 2016 Clinton candidate. The investigation was eventually taken over by special counsel Robert Mueller. In 2019, the Mueller report found no evidence the Trump campaign criminally conspired. They got to throw in the word criminally. Conspired with Russia to interfere in the 2016, but detailed examples of Trump allegedly attempting to obstruct the investigation. Bullshit. William Barr assigned special counsel John Durham to investigate it. Durham highly critical report released in May 2020 said investigation was launched based on, quote, raw, unanalyzed, uncorroborated intelligence and without, quote, actual evidence, end quote, of collusion between Russia and the Trump's team. It's worse than that. I would argue that Durham is part of the cover-up. We got some documents here. We'll just go down here. Let's see. How do I do this? Get out of here. Get out of here. What people are saying. I love this. What people are saying. Sean Davis, co-founder of The Federalist, posted on X, formerly Twitter, these are the Crossfire Hurricane files that Joe Biden, the deep state, and a number of so-called journalists spent years trying to keep them hidden and never wanted anyone to see. Attorney General Pam Bondi said, at my direction, the Department of Justice has already started the process to release these materials, yada, yada, yada. What happens next? It's unclear when the Crossfire Hurricane documents will be officially released by the FBI. Well, we've got a bunch of them. And Encryptus has been breaking them down, and I'll give you. I'll save the cherry on the top of this Corruption Sunday for the end, just to go over the high level summary of it. It's quite phenomenal. We've broken it down. Encryptus. Did you post the summary on our locals community?
I haven't had time to do that. I will be doing that after the show.
Okay, good. Everyone, if you want to go there and get it, you can join our community and follow Encryptus. It's one of the free... This is open for everybody. This is not behind any paywall for supporters only. And you're getting the overview right now. One of the major revelations, they knew that Steele was an unreliable CHS, a confidential human source. They knew that Christopher Steele was unreliable. They knew that he had previously, broken any rule. He broke rules. He violated instructions not to talk to the press. He'd been formally closed as a confidential human source. He had been flagged internally as a trust violation risk. And yet they took that Steele dossier, which they knew was bunk, which was fed to them by Michael Sussman, Hillary Clinton's lawyer, so that the FBI leaked it to Yahoo News. So they wrote a report on it. And then they went back to the judge and said, look what the media is reporting. We need to go get a FISA warrant, spy warrant. They knew it. So again, nothing new, but the extent of their knowledge is corrupt, to put it mildly. FBI agents relied on verbal certifications instead of actual records at record access due to technical failures. Basically, they weren't doing their job. Steele discussed active U.S. investigations with media and foreign officials while he was a confidential human source. I mean, basically, the FBI doesn't do their job properly. Explicit suppressions of FISA relevant source risk flags. This is the biggest one ever. What's my tweet on this? I put the tweet up right before we went live, just to tease the audience a little bit so you'd come. This is as far as I'm concerned, the biggest one of the bunch. They knew it's just they knew, and then the problem is, okay, now we all know. Now you have the black and white evidence that we know, and yet most people are going to say nothing's going to happen. Life goes on. The same people who did this are still in positions of power. Adam Schiff for Brains McSchiffface, who came out and lied to the American people, knowing that his lie could not be contradicted without the people of the committee violating the confidentiality of that committee, said smoking gun evidence of Russia collusion. Not only did it not exist, he knew it did not exist when he said it. And the reason for which he made that lie was because nobody could contradict that lie without violating their obligations of confidentiality. This is the bombshell, as far as I'm concerned, and I thank Encryptus for being able to find it in the slew of documents that are unreadable with a Control F. In this document from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that's the FBI, everybody, quarterly supervisory source report. Sorry, my eyes are really bad. Let me just make this bigger for myself and for everyone else out there. I love these things. I can't pretend to understand all of it, but you got these internal documents where they, basically assess investigations. Did the confidential? Go to administration, and I'll just highlight it so we can see it at the top. Did the confidential human source engage in unauthorized criminal activity? No. Is the confidential human source currently or expected to become subject of investigation or prosecution by FPO? What would that be? Field police officer? I don't know what that is. Or state or local prosecutor's office? No. Previously testified? No. CHS expected to testify? Hell no. CHS involved in certain federal judicial proceedings? Not yet. No, nor will he be because he's a protected CHS. Will the CHS potentially obtain provide privileged or exculpatory information? No. Has the CHS been or is expected to be named in an electronic surveillance application? No. Has the CHS provided information to support probable cause in a FISA application? No. So the CHS, confidential human source, which was Michael Steele, on whom they relied for the Steele dossier, by their own internal assessment, provided no probable cause for a FISA application. And yet they went ahead with it anyhow. Now I could steelman this. And I'll say, look, it's not, you don't only get your probable cause from a CHS. You get it from an ecosystem, from other people who might say there's probable cause, even though the man who drafted the report upon which these FISA warrants were based says there's no probable cause. Maybe he doesn't know. He's not a lawyer. He's not an FBI agent. He's just a lowly confidential human source that manufactures fake reports with made up rubbish in it that was financed by the Clinton campaign and the DNC, and then they lied and fudged the numbers in terms of them paying for that report. Encryptus, while I'm talking about this, can you find that article which shows that the DNC and Hillary Clinton paid for the Steele dossier, lied about it, committed the actual crime for which Donald Trump was bullshittedly convicted in New York? They actually did it. They actually financed that report, lied about it, concealed the fact that they paid for that report. And when they got outed for it, you know what their fine was? I think Hillary Clinton got an $8,000 fine and the DNC got a $132,000 fine. Does that sound right, Encryptus? This is
from CNN for you, just to show that it's not from the right.
Let me bring this up, people. I have a pretty decent decent recall when I've repeated it to myself a sufficient amount of times that it's fresh in my mind. FEC finds Hillary Clinton campaign and DNC over Trump-related dossier research. A federal election regulator fined Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign and the DNC earlier this month for not properly disclosing the money they spent on controversial opposition research that led to the infamous Trump-Russia dossier. This is how they described it in 2022. Holy crab apples, do you have to be dishonest for that? The DNC was fined $105,000 and the Clinton campaign was fined $8,000, according to a letter sent by the FEC to a conservative group that requested the inquiry. The dossier was compiled by retired British spy Christopher Steele. It contained unverified and salacious allegations, all bullshit. The money trail behind the Steele dossier has been the subject of intense political scrutiny for years. More than $1 million flowed from the Clinton campaign and the DNC to the law firm Perkins Coie. Who was involved in that? Encryptus, can you fact check me on this one also? I think it's Mark Elias that was involved in that, which is why Robert Barnes calls him a money launderer.
Yeah, I don't have to fact check that. That's 100% true.
Which then hired the opposition research company Fusion GPS. That company hired Steele and asked him to use overseas contacts to dig up dirt on Russia. And the rest, as we now know, is corrupt history. But what does it matter? What difference does it make at this point? Like Ben Shapiro saying, what difference does it make who killed JFK? Hillary Clinton saying, what difference does it make how they died in Benghazi? People are going to say, what difference does it make? This is water under the bridge. Trump got reelected. Forgive and forget. Or just move on. Or it's not really corruption. It's just good politics. Kids, let me Jesus out of me. That's what's going on with Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Encryptus, what do you want to add on this? Because I know that you've been looking at this all morning as well.
Basically, you've covered most of it. There's a lot of dirty money in this. There's a lot of evidence that the administration inside the FBI not only allowed this, but helped push it. They used the documents that they knew to be false to get those FISA applications. They used the same evidence to renew those FISA applications. Everything here was dirty. Another interesting tidbit was Christopher Steele was found in Russia talking to Russian officials during the middle of all of this. And at the point in time, he ditched FBI surveillance and was unable to be tracked at that time when he went into government official buildings.
You know what, Encryptus, when you're talking, if you don't bring up your camera, I'm going to have to bring up this picture next time. We're just gonna have this is going to be the face of Encryptus, and we'll put like a little mouth, like a tete-a-clack thing in it, so that I'm joking. This is the problem, is that this was known. I mean, this was known to everybody who's been paying attention. Now you just have the cold hard receipts. But the fact that Durham, in his report, did he bury it or did he just gloss over it? They did not emphasize this because there's a reason why they were demoralized within the FBI when Kash Patel was appointed and when Trump won the election. They knew this for the last better part of nearly a decade now. And now those of us who knew and those of us who were following it, it's nothing wildly revelatory. And for those who don't care, they just will not care. And we'll keep looking through it, and the documents that are truly astonishing, we're gonna put them on blast. And the other thing I was about to say is that there's going to be more declassification. Encryptus, do you know what the schedule is offhand?
I do not.
I will see, because they're doing it in batches. So we're going to get to the other batches when it's time. That's Operation Crossfire Hurricane. So you have to appreciate also, by the way, everybody, we're at a hotel and the window overlooks the pool. And so I've got this kid who's been a very good kid looking out the window at the pool like a puppy in a pet store.
Too many people.
There's a lot of people. The amount of urine in that pool is far too high. We'll see. Anyhow, we're gonna have a fun time this afternoon. There is. Let me see if I'm going to go to the chats here and get some comments. Schmickel says, "Hey Viva, the remanded BC election report found a discrepancy between Elections Canada and Elections BC voter list of 376,000 registered voters. Elections Canada updates annually November. Cheers." Well, I'm going to reach out to the remanded. Now, I was supposed to have on RB Ham today, who's a PPC member, a candidate running for the PPC in the election. I have extended with open arms, an invitation to any conservative member who wants to come on and have a discussion. Not even a discussion, talk about policy, platform, etc. So this is not a partisan platform that I'm offering. I said today was not the best day. I want to do it back at home, but also when there's not breaking news that if the audience doesn't get addressed, will not be too welcoming on the guest. So we're going to see if that happens. It will happen next week, but RB Ham in our locals community and on Twitter. Let me see what his handle is on X. RB Ham. I know that I can't. RB Ham. Yes, his PPC candidate, and his handle is at RB Ham 63 with one M. RBHAM 63. Running for office. And I'm going to have him on next week. We got King of Biltong in the house who says, if you want to raid me, I'll go live. It will be 30 minutes early, but I'll do it, says King of Biltong. Well, now I'm going to, we have conflicting things here. We'll see. Can we raid 2 people? I don't think I can raid 2 people.
We can. We have to wait 8 minutes. So we did promise Hunley that we were going to send him that raid. I think that's what we do first. You do what we say, and then whoever's left over after 8 minutes, we send to Biltong.
Okay, good. We shall do this. Biltong will do it. So we're going to try to make everybody happy. Now, what else do I have going on in the backdrop here, people? I want to make sure what we're getting. Yeah, we're gonna go back to Canada. What's up? He travels well, everybody. Like yesterday we got up at about 6 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. Had to go to the airport to take care of some visa stuff, and then wait for our flight at 4:50. In the meantime, we went to the Miami Museum. Had a day there. Then we get on the flight, 4:50, a 5-hour flight, which brings us to say 5 o'clock, 10 o'clock Eastern time. But then it's only 7 o'clock Vegas time. And for those of you who don't know, I've forgotten that everything is a lineup in Vegas. We got off the airport. I was like, oh great, we'll go get the car now. You got to go to get a shuttle. Then you got to wait in line. It was a 30-minute wait to get onto a shuttle to go to the car rental. Then you got to wait to get the car rental. Then you got to go find parking. Then you got to go check into the hotel. Okay, dude. Go play on the phone for a few more minutes. So everything, and then by the time we had dinner, it was 9 o'clock East Coast time, which is midnight Canadian time. Kid did well, and I missed a big day yesterday. I was man, the news doesn't stop. And let's get back to Canada for a second. Actually, I do want to pull up Sam Cooper's article, which I intended to read in the opening part. Beijing uses organized crime to interfere in Taiwan's elections and likely does in Canada, Taiwanese official. This is from September 2023. And what's amazing is when people who have their ears to the ground and when they understand what's going on, time doesn't prove them wrong. Time proves them. Starts with a P. It starts with a P. What was it called when you can predict the future? I can see the water fountains of the Bellagio.
Prognostication.
No. I was going to say not predatory. Premonition. Is there a word like premonitionatory? Anyhow,
premonition is true.
Premonition. So this is what he wrote in 2023. And I believe we're seeing a bit of it now. Taipei, Taiwan, Beijing has interfered in Taiwan's elections by using organized crime networks to influence votes for certain candidates and is likely using the same method in Canada, senior Taiwanese official says. Responding to questions from journalists in Taiwan, Zhihong Zhang, deputy minister of the mainland affairs, said Beijing uses collaborators, including illegal gambling bosses, Taiwanese businessmen, to interfere in Taiwan's elections. The Bureau asked if Zhan if he could describe Taiwanese knowledge of Beijing's election interference and methods in comparison to examples in China's recent interference in Canadian federal elections through the Chinese Communist Party's United Front, which has allegedly clandestinely funded Beijing's favored candidates, according to Canadian intelligence. We've been facing China's United Front for over half a century in Taiwan, and I think China's tactics have been changing all the time, John said. Since we are in the lead up to a presidential election next January, we know that they have already started the United Front campaign against us. You should go follow Sam Cooper. He's fantastic. Link. Okay, now hold on one second. There was another part of this that I wanted to bring up as well. Okay, no, that's the we already covered that one. Okay, good. Go to the chat. I think what we're going to do now, we got Sam Cooper. Okay, no, the super fentanyl. It's just there's so many breaking stories of raids and the super fentanyl. Encryptus, what else was it in the news that we should talk about? I'm going to go over to locals, our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. By the way, I won't be able to do a locals only after party. So what I think I'm going to do now is just talk with the chat on locals and get some questions out here. If everybody wants to join at locals, it's here. If anybody wants to get a book, people, Louis the Lobster, how do I always forget to plug my own stuff? Go sign up for Home Title Lock. Get it if you are a homeowner. It's invaluable, and an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But if you have children and you want to read them a beautiful book called Louis the Lobster, go get one. Written by me, put together by my wife, illustrated by Abigail Martin, the daughter of a vivabarneslaw.locals.com community member, and it's fantastic. Over in the locals community, Lily America says, I just sent you an email regarding the ticket name change, so you don't have to research for my email address. Thanks for helping. I have to go back to work now. Lily America, I say enjoy work. Godspeed. And I think we got everything there. I'm going to go over to the questions on the left-hand side, which are often amazing that we should address. Patricia says, Viva Fry. Viva, I would appreciate your opinion. I'm a Canadian. I live in Toronto at Tobicoke Lakeshore. This is a very liberal riding. Even now I'm seeing the signs. Shocking, but true. We have a PPC MP candidate. Of course, no one knows about him. I find it terrible that PPC is not getting any exposure, no traction. I believe we need a PPC seat in Parliament, as obviously PPC won't win, but at least one seat would be good. This riding is not going to win a PPC seat at this stage. Do you think a strategic vote is better, i.e. vote PC versus Liberal, and should I keep with my morals, or should I keep with my morals and vote PPC? On a side, though I support PPC, I find that Maxime et al. Are not doing a great job for getting exposure. Patricia, I never tell anybody how to vote. I just tell people that if they vote for Liberals, they are an idiot. Period. Full stop. So I can't tell you how to vote. And a Liberal riding in Ontario probably goes Liberal anyhow. I'd be curious to know how Westmount NDG, where I ran, is going to go this year. But I can't answer that question in good conscience. Mark Carney is a pathological liar. His default response is to lie. Said, we're getting breaking news that I'm going to bring up right now. Holy crab apples. This is going to be a follow-up on the previous story that I took a lot of shite for as well. Shite for. You all remember when Mahmoud Khalil, I believe he's Syrian-born, Palestinian activist, Colombian PhD postdoc student, married to an American who's 8 months pregnant, who had his green card revoked and was slated to be deported for allegedly participating in pro-Hamas campus unrest on the Columbia campus. And the day that he was arrested, and everybody on the right side of social media was saying he's a pro-Hamas supporter, participated in the Columbia protest unrest on campus. And all I wanted to know at the time on that day was, what was the evidence? Videos, statements, because surely if this guy is a vocal proponent, an activist who's partaking in this, surely there is black and white, cut and dry, death to the Jews, from the river to the sea, annihilate Israel, I support Hamas. October 7th was not a terrorist attack type rhetoric. And that's all I wanted to know. What were the facts upon which this was based in order to assess whether or not I agreed with it? I met with a lot of blowback. You know, a lot of people saying, Viva, you self-hating Jew, what are you doing? Viva, they're never going to like you. As if that was my thought process. As if I ever think if they come back with the trains, I won't be on those trains. Someone actually accused me of this. Viva, they're not going to spare you when they're shipping people off to the trains. I have no doubt. You and I, sir, will be on that train together. But at the very least, I'll be there with a clean conscience that I didn't resort to the very type of behavior that I spent the last decade, maybe less, 5 years complaining about. All I wanted to know what was the evidence. And ultimately, the evidence came out that That one interview that he gave with CNN, where he said, we will be here for as long as it takes. We will do what it takes to, counter the FBI, not the FBI, the authorities, the police. We will be here as long as it takes for the campus to listen to our demands. Paraphrasing, but the point was he used the word we, our, not the words them, their, theirs, as a negotiator or as someone who's just a lead negotiator, not a participant, would speak. And I was like, okay, that look, you faffle, you play stupid games by supporting unrest in the name of get out of here. By supporting unrest in the name of Hamas, or at the very least in the name of organizations that are actually causing harassment, disruption to courses, etc. You're on a privilege when you the privilege in the truest sense of the word. Then you had the judge who said, no, we can't deport him just yet. The breaking news of the day, people, and I'm reading this as we're reading this. Colombia anti-Israel Mahmoud Khalil can be deported. Judge rules. Mahmoud Khalil faces deportation for his role in Columbia University campus protests against Israel. Immigration judge has ruled that Mahmoud Khalil can be deported from the United States due to his involvement in leading last year's pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University. Encryptus, if you're able to find the CNN interview clip so that we can just button it up for the purposes of the segment so that nobody doesn't know exactly what he said, which, as far as I'm concerned, that was the most damning piece of evidence, and that was the one that was provided by Danny Ann Direct, D-A-N-I, Danny Ann. She's amazing. You should follow her. When I saw that, I'm like, okay, you can't really argue with that. That was not an op-ed merely expressing words, although even words could be like, death to, etc., are just words. That was active participation in, organization in, not merely being a spokesperson for and on behalf of a party that you do not represent. Let me get back to the article. Judge James Comins ruled in Louisiana on Friday that Khalil, 30, can be deported, saying that the U.S. government met its burden of the proof to remove him. I would like to quote what you said last time, that there's nothing that's more important to this court than due process rights and fundamental fairness, end quote. Khalil told the court, clearly what we witnessed today, neither of these principles were present today or in this whole process. This is exactly why the Trump administration has sent me to this court 1,000 miles away from my family. I just hope that the urgency that you deemed fit for me are afforded to the hundreds of others who have been here without hearings for months. Khalil's team's attorney have until April 23 to file relief applications. During the hearing Friday, Department of Homeland Security attorneys also spoke about how Khalil misrepresented himself on his green card application. DHS said that Khalil was not upfront about some of the organizations he is involved with. Khalil, they said, willfully failed to disclose his employment with the Syrian office in the British Embassy in Beirut when he applied for permanent U.S. residency. Federal officials allege that Khalil was, quote, inadmissible at the time of his adjustment, end quote, because of, quote, fraud or willful misrepresentation of material fact in his status application. The agency also accused Khalil of failing to disclose his work with the United Nations Relief or UNRWA. I mean, that's another thing is you can't really argue with lying on a visa application if it's true. The only question is it true? Bottom line, the video alone, we'll get to it. Tuesday, Comins ordered the federal government to provide evidence by Wednesday justifying its attempt to deport Khalil. Marco Rubio responded on behalf of the government in a roughly 1.5-page letter sent to the court. He cited provisions of the Immigration Act to justify Khalil's removal. The provision allows the U.S. Secretary to deport non-citizens if the Secretary determines their presence in the U.S. would have serious adverse events on foreign policy. And we're going to get to that in a bit. Rubio accused Khalil of participating in anti-Semitic protests, disruptive activities, yada, yada, yada. Condoning anti-Semitic conduct and disruptive protests in the United States would severely undermine that significant foreign policy objective, Rubio wrote. It's sad. Some people are saying he's got an 8-month pregnant wife, and then others like Gad Sad astutely point out that doesn't mean you didn't violate the law. In fact, it might mean that you've just victimized another person, that person to be, that 8-month-old baby to be born now and have to deal with the fact that daddy is going to be deported to Syria, lied about his work for the Syrian government, work that he did for the UNRWA, which it now is known had members actively participate in the October 7 terrorist attacks. Yeah, This is a FAFO of the highest order. You go to a foreign country and you partake in disruptive protests on campus that lead to harassment and actively boast about how you're going to do it for as long as necessary until your objectives are met. Let me just see who appointed this judge. James Comins, appointed in 2023. I don't know.
I don't. Clip of him speaking. Drop that in the chat.
Thank you very much. Is that the CommiTube link?
Yep.
Let's see if this. I hate these AI videos. They put these videos to just slap over some music and some text. Let me lower the volume a little bit here. Does this have the
speaking a few seconds in? Yeah.
Okay. Lower the volume. It's very loud.
I woke up today to a surprise that the university has suspended me, although I had received assurances that I wouldn't face any disciplinary measure for my efforts. I was not part of this encampment. I did not sleep in this the encampment. This shows the randomness and the arbitrary measures that the university is taking against their students.
Does it have where he said, "Oh, this is it"? No, this one doesn't have it. It's the one where he was talking to CNN and he says, "We will stay here as long as we need to have our objectives met."
I've looked through hundreds of videos. I don't see it here. So
yeah, hold up. Let me see it. No. It was on. I definitely tweeted it. Danny on Viva Drive. Yeah, let me see if I can find this here real quick. Danny on had the best. She put the best clip out here. Let me just take this one out. Mahmoud Danian. See if we can do it in 5 seconds. If we can't, we won't. Danian direct posted. It doesn't matter. It was that. I'm pretty accurately summarizing it. So it's. I mean, I have no doubt it's devastating, but it's another thing. It's like we're going to get to the point where, as a matter of principle, people are going to sell the rope to the people who want to hang them with it. At some point, you have to lay down a law. Just make sure that it's clear and evenly applied. If you lie on a visa application, it's grounds for revocation. And it sounds like there's good basis to believe that he lied. You are on a visa and partake in politically disruptive harassment campaigns, that privilege can be revoked. All right, that's it. Let's do, how much time do we have left here? Let's do 13 minutes of Q&A in the vivabarneslaw.locals.com community locals. It will not be exclusive because I'm not going to end it because I want to do the raid properly, but we're going to go to the chat and take questions here. And if you want, you can come over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com and watch it. It will not be for supporters only because I believe it's for everybody. So here, locals, Rumble. Is this us here? Yeah, this is us. Come to locals and partake in the chat, become members. And if you want to support the work that we do, support the work that we do. $10 a month, $100 a year. Best community out there. You get the exclusive Bourbon with Barnes's several days a week. You get typically the after party of every day stream with me. You get a bunch of content that I post up there. Some of it's more family related. You would have seen the sneak peek of Viva Family explores the oldest town in America, St. Augustine. It was beautiful. Now that's published everywhere. But I want to go to the chat. What's up?
Hello.
And let's go to the chat and take some chat over here and see what's going on.
Really disgusting.
What's that?
I found a date. Kid
found some food under the bed of the Vegas. Don't touch anything in a Vegas hotel.
I touched it.
Oh. Let's see here. Encryptus. Any chat that I should deal with specifically? Shh.
Nope.
Let's go over here. We got Jerry says, Viva, short version for you and Robert Barnes. Many plants ready to produce vehicles. All they need are caravans of trucks from Canada and Mexico to bring the tooling. For those with further interest, United Auto Workers, UAW, Sean Fain, stressed that there is an excess capacity in the auto industry within the United States amid President Trump's tariffs and layoffs at certain manufacturers. Fain joined CNN's The Source on Thursday, just a day after the Trump administration import tariffs went into place, and following the news that Stellantis was halting production at plants in Canada and Mexico and had plans to lay off 900 employees. There is excess capacity all over the country right now, and Stellantis has excess capacity right in Warren. Michigan, where they're laying people off. Yesterday, I saw POTUS had Gretchen Whitmer in the Oval Office, and he signed some orders, complimented her. I am sure he wants her to open up all the closed auto plants and supply in Michigan. Last night, I talked to my son, who is teaching a confined spaces class in Lima, Ohio, at the GM engine plant there. He has been in a lot of closed plants, which have been used for various classes and teaches rescue rope operations, paramedics, etc. He said the plants are not in any state of disrepair. They are ready for caravans of trucks and carrying all the necessary tooling to bring back auto stuff to the USA. It's amazing. Did we talk about Trump's? We did talk about Trump's master play with the tariffs, right?
We did.
It's amazing. The markets. Oh my goodness! No, I didn't tell.